Okay, I think everybody's in. I move to your next slide.
Oh right, so this is me, right? So you're going to get some questions. We're not going to bang on for ages because they're going to get the kids are getting home from school, and we've got lunch to cook, which is good. So these are questions from a very biased, and I did this over the weekend, and I was probably a little bit grumpy when I was writing the questions. So just take them as they are. So this was just to check at the moment as to whether the people in the I get all this feedback that when we're working with industry and when we're doing stuff with industry, that IPR is a real problem, that it's a headache, that it's an issue, that it's a pain in the ass. I don't see it. It's just like seems to be rather relatively straightforward. So I wanted to do just like a check as to whether people felt it was, is this a real issue or is it a load of hot air? If it's a load of hot air, we can stop now and we're done. If it's a real issue, we can carry on. So I wanted to know, this was a simple yes, no, I think. Presenter has changed slides, go to slide. So and you might, you've moved.
Yeah, but I don't know if can you answer on this?
Yeah, you should be able to do stuff, right?
Yeah, you click S, there you go.
And you might think it's a money spinner for lawyers as well, which when we get some of the American stuff, you've got to be doing. So I think it's hot air. I'm the only one. Okay, I knew that. You will think this is a real issue. That's just because you want to keep going.
You thought you could get us now.
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't mind being a singleton in this. Okay, so you think it's a real issue? Okay, well, okay. So you're going to have to tell us why. What's the next one, please, AC? All right. So now you think it's a real issue. What are the issues that you have actually come across, or what you think could get in the way of this sort of RA industry relationships? So we've got a load of people out there, whether you're an ILO, ICO, or industry, whatever you are. What's your feeling of what you think can get in the way? I think you're limited to 3 responses. So you've got, it's a free format reply, and you just lob in what your feelings are, whatever they might be. I'm gonna have this one. Greedy. Ooh, why did it do that? Oh, submit. Oh, you have to do all 3 at the same time.
Oh yeah, because otherwise you need to put on multiple answers.
Oh, I've broken the system. But I can reload and then I get to do another 3. Data access restrictions. Legal is always a pain. Increases time agreements, yeah, fair values. Yeah, clear understanding. Ownership. Oh, crikey. It's going too quickly.
Ownership is big. Many people put it in.
It's either that or it's the same person putting it in n times. Right. I've played that game in this before as well, right? If I do that. Okay, what do we got in here? Okay, so ownership is coming through. So some people must have put that in. Either it was one person that put it in multiple times, or people did put it in a couple of times. Who's going to tell us more about ownership? About this sort of these IPR issues? I can't see you all. Anyone?
What's ownership?
No one wrote ownership.
Well, yeah, you get disputes about it. And you have to get it right, because if you don't, it can invalidate a patent. So those issues can come through at times. Plus, I mean, the issue of who has what ownership rights between the inventors themselves and the institute.
Is that not okay? French law makes that clear.
Yeah, Dutch does too, but people don't always accept it.
Oh right, wow! You've had cases where, or you've come across cases where the facility or the inventor doesn't accept it.
The inventor sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's clear. Well, it depends on, in France, it depends on the type of invention. You've got like type A, B, and C or something. If it's type A, it belongs to the facility. If it's type B, even if you've done it on facility time, it belongs to the inventor, because it's out of mission. right? And I've always found that a little bit strange. And then there's type C, which I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touch an issue there. Is it within the scope of what they are employed for? You can get debates around that. People say, no, this is not related to what my research is about. It's an idea I had at home sitting on the loo in another field. But okay, I mean,
yeah,
maybe we're clutching at straws. I mean, fortunately, it doesn't happen all that often, but I have seen situations where it does.
yeah, which is a bit like somebody put in, researchers do not cooperate.
That was me too.
Oh, that was you as well. All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a different issue. That is, we don't want to lose time waiting for patents to file, because then we will be pipped by another group for publication.
Yeah. Yes. Publications are a lot of researchers see publications being as the king metric, right? If you like, whereas patents are sort of like, well whatever. Not necessarily.
Yeah, and I think personally that's really a non-issue, because if you go about it, you can get something filed within a month. I mean, it may not be top quality, there's an issue there, but there shouldn't be a huge delay.
No, you can do stuff really fast. If you're motivated, you've got a good patent lawyer, you can move pretty swiftly. Yeah, okay. What else have we got in there? So it's ownership disputes, that's probably you as well, right? Scientific recognition. That's kind of like publications, or it's about keeping things secret. Who put that one in there? If anybody's going to own up to it. No one?
Claudia, was it you?
You can look up who it was, right? Can you look at that in real time?
No, I can't in real time, unfortunately.
Oh, no. That's a shame. That's a shame. Okay, well, there's
Nobody
yeah,
wants to talk about it?
No, but science recognition is, well, it's important, right? People have got to get their CVs if things are confidential and secret, because you've got a relationship for IPR with industry. You can't publish. We get this all the time. Why should I work on this project here? I can't publish, so it's no good for my CV. Whereas in some cultures, having that sort of confidential angle on your CV is a positive thing. I've worked with, I'm making this up, I worked with Apple on top secret technology. Can't tell you about it, but I mean, it still looks valid on a CV. Anyway, what's next? Let's try the next one. I can't remember what I put next. Next slide or question, whatever it is. So maybe this is also more relevant for the ILO. So we're seeing more co-developments with industry, especially research infrastructure industry, and especially on instrumentation. And I really don't know how to approach the sharing of the results in a fair way so they can be exploited. And you might have a consortium of research infrastructures on one side, one industry or multiple industries on the other side. And how do people see the challenges in this co-development area, which is one of the rich areas between ILOs and ICOs that we've been seeing coming out? Attract, the big European project, looks into this area. Is there, what would be your expectations? Maybe that you've already done this for this sort of IPR sharing. Is there, and this is a keyword basis as well. Sort of, what are your thoughts on that? And when would you do it? Is it done beforehand or after? Before, do you predict what you do? I've seen both, where you sort of say, well, we're going to share 50-50. It's okay, we don't care. And other people say, well, whoa, let's wait and see. Well, let's wait till afterwards and we see who's put in what. I know. Oops. Yeah, I've limited the number of characters, which is really annoying because I didn't realize it was there. Not interesting for RI. IPR for not. The IPR is IPR for industry meant to mean that the IPR is only for the industrial partner?
Yeah, so I wrote this. So
yeah.
These two sentences belong together indeed. So I mentioned that the IPR is for industry and not interesting for the research.
Ooh.
It's a bit cutting corners, but
no?
I have the impression that in general this is the tendency over the years that for myself, we had many long discussions for ITER about IPR, because ITER wanted all the IPR, but in the end, well, they could not really use IPR. And companies, for companies, it's very important to hold on the IPR. So what I mentioned is a bit well, a bit short, but I think in general it's better to have the industry keeping the IPR, because they can use the IPR, and the research infrastructure should concentrate on the use of the IPR, but not making new business out of the IPR.
So you sort of assign the IPR, so the exploitation of the IPR is assigned to the industrial partner, even if it's shared 50-50.
If that could be arranged, I mean, that, yeah, you need to think about it, but you need to make arrangements for that. But that would be the best, indeed. Yeah.
Okay. And I like the exclusive and non-exclusive point that somebody's put in there, which is not easy for international facilities. At the ISREF, we've got a frankly rather frustrating clause in our statute somewhere that says that we have to share our IP in certain ways with our shareholders, which can make it hard to make, which makes it really hard to do exclusive agreements. But industry often wants exclusive. I don't know what people have other experience before in advance. So people mostly saying in advance, which is, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought, well, anyway, I don't know when I thought that. Different fields of use, which is fair dues. Who put different fields of use in there? That sounds like somebody knows what they're talking about. No one's going to own up again.
Yeah, that was me again.
It was you again, Nigel.
I'm talking too much, but
that's all right. You talk away, man.
It's one way of cutting the cake, is to say, okay, you can use this within your field of business, but and that would usually apply to an industrial supplier, and the public research institute would keep rights in other fields. So it's just another knob that you can use to differentiate.
That's a fair point, right? So that you keep some. That's sort of what we do with a well-known home care products company, where they keep the rights to the IPR in their domain, and if there was like an X-ray technique or development involved, then we keep that in our domain. So it's 100%. We just split it out and separate it. Partly because it works, and also you don't know. I don't want to end up with tiny fractional IPR holdings in stuff that I have to then track, right? I mean, maybe I'm being naive. Has anybody been involved in this kind of licensing for a co-development and practically doing this with an industrial partner for a co-development, or is it so new in this co-developments that nobody's actually doing it yet? No one's done it? Well, you're all hopeless. You should be doing this, right? Should be doing this stuff. What's next?
Okay.
Well, let's try. Okay. Patents, in my opinion, are a waste of time and money. They get in the way. The amount of administration behind them and tracking the costs and where you're going to file them is just painful, and it's just a faff. I waste loads of time on this, and we don't get any return. Maybe our patents are rubbish. So I'd like to see what you think. So for me, we've never made, I think, maybe I shouldn't say this. I know with one patent we made money, but we've never got our money back from doing patents. And is that a problem that we don't get our money back? Supporting European industry and doing stuff? You can't be answering to question number 3 because there's no, I can't see what is, because the 3 is blank, right?
Other, so maybe
other,
you can ask people. You can ask people there what they
It's a blank
think.
question. It's like, well, we don't think it's really useful, but it's not a waste of money either. It's sort of an intermediate thing. That's fine.
Well, on the money thing, I'm talking now about time I spent in a TTO for a university. So it's a single site, if you like. But the problem you have is you start the patenting process, and initially it's affordable, but then you get into the national phase and then the costs shoot up.
Yeah.
So we had the policy, no, more than a policy, it was in fact an edict that we could not continue ownership beyond the national filing date. So you then have to find a partner to take it over or license it. Otherwise, the costs just shoot up.
Okay.
I mean, that's a decision for the institute to make, but I think many universities do that because they just have to have a cut-off somewhere.
And then
So you get into a huge rush to find a partner.
But then you go for a private partner, like an industry partner, or do you go for like another university or public partner?
Well, anybody who will take over the costs, if you like, and give you a return on your investment. So a licensing deal with the further patenting costs, perhaps the retroactive patenting costs taken care of. So it would usually be an industry partner.
That's quite nice. I mean, you've got basically then you've got a year, 18 months to bag it. If not, you drop it. And you've only got an outlay of 6K or something.
It goes to 30 months if you...
if you stretch it.
Yeah, if you stretch it,
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad policy, I suppose. There's a clear decision before you get into the expensive phase where you've got to translate and file with China, Japan, and God knows what else, where the money, as you're saying, shoots up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so does the admin. You take the decision to zap it. You don't drag it out. If it's not been done by then, you kill the patent. You still got the metric for the facility. You did a patent, right? Okay, fine. And so, I mean, when you were doing those patents, Nigel, back in the university TTO, obviously the patents are a metric, the number of patents, right? And did they differentiate between patents that were zapped after the 18 to 30 months and those that continued, or there was just like kind of a bulk number? Like, we got 1,000 patents this year. Isn't that great?
It's a good question. I think we were very much in the startup phase, so I think the metrics were developing, but obviously in time you would want to measure both.
Yeah.
So one is about inventorship, and the other is about well, how clever you are at getting it applied, getting a return. So yeah, both I think are important.
Yeah, I like the. And sorry, this is I'm sort of interested in this. And when you were doing that at the university, there was a written policy document for the kill the patent if you haven't got a partner after N months, or was it sort of like an unspoken rule?
I think it was written, but it was certainly a hard and fast rule. Yeah.
All right, I quite like that. I could do with sort of an approach like that for the ESRF in some way. We've got a very, very modest set of patents, right? But I think I've stopped more patents than we've created at the ESRF because we were just they were just burning money, right? And having that kind of approach, bad. Like it.
I'm not sure if this is relevant, but we're talking so far about single site, and a distributed RI is in a different position, and in fact, from point of view of EATRIS, but I think it holds for most distributed RIs. They're not actually involved themselves with intellectual property. It's at the level of the individual institutes who are doing the work. So you have to, I think, make that distinction. The big physics single-sited RIs, of course, I guess, do have their own intellectual property and have a policy for managing it.
We don't. Not good enough. Anyway, it'd be interesting to know what the other facilities have got.
Okay.
That would be nice. That's a okay. Hang on. That's a very good topic for IRA Forum.
Who else wants to say a few words? Maybe from another facility.
I would also second that note on the distributed research infrastructures, because for Clarion it's the same. We centrally don't deal with any IPs because it's the nodes that are working with the data and the tools. So.
And do you know how they work around it? Or they all have a specific approach, maybe?
I would say it depends on the node, but mostly we are working for researchers, so it's usually open access road. So patents per se is not really something that comes very often in the discussion. But if it does, it's sorted out locally by the local institution.
Yeah, using their local rules. Yeah.
Anyone else wants to share something about it?
I should go back to the distributed thing, right? I saw at some point in one distributed infrastructure, which I'm not going to name, there was a notion that maybe the central hub would take some kind of percentage of, for example, patent income. Is that like a sort of a tax, if you like? Is that something that any of the other distributed facilities do, or the hub is somehow self-funded or whatever, and there's no impact on commercial income, be it patents or service work or anything like that? I'm not sure that was a clear question. Do the central hubs of distributed RIs tax commercial income at their distributed facilities to help them get some kind of income to run the hub? Is that
No, I think it's mostly because when there is some commercial activity, then it's the contract between the institution and for providing any services. So at least for the moment, nothing centrally that we are aware of.
Okay.
That is done.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Good. Anyone else on patents? Somebody else agreed with me that they're a waste of money, which is good. Right? I like that. But 5 people weren't too sure and went for the blank answer. Who agreed with me that they're a waste of time and resources? Is anybody willing to admit to agreeing with me? No, you bastards.
You don't have support.
No,
well, I did not write this because I think that patents are really useful. But generally, when working with companies, some of them think that patents law is a kind of tip for the competitors. So they don't want to show actually what the solution is. And lately, I had the example of company working with graphene. They didn't want to get into patent or anything else because they said it's too dangerous.
Yeah, keep
so
it secret.
That's also, they want to keep it secret.
Yeah, I think you.
So from this perspective, it can be for some companies, it can be a waste of money and time, and also it can be dangerous for the company.
Tend to agree. I think we just in the sake of a different thing with a synchrotron, the instrumentation. A lot of the knowledge about instrumentation is in the engineers' brains, and you just keep it secret and don't waste the money on a patent. Anybody else on patents? No. Try the next one. I think we're nearly done because it is coming up to children's lunchtime. Ah, right. Yes. Do you? I know my brother who works not in real industry, right? He gets a reward when there's patents and licenses. Do you reward your staff? Whether you're in industry or a facility, do you reward your staff when they generate IPR or when it's valorized? And this is an open text one, I think. And do you give them money? Do they get recognition in annual interviews? Do they just get a round of applause in the team meeting or something? Or what happens? Is there some kind of reward in there for them when there's a license, a patent, or any other form of IPR generation that is valorized? Or do you just ignore it? So the SRF, they have a cash bonus. Personal IPR, oh la la. So they actually take the IPR. Yeah, okay, that's like invention type B, right? Where it's out of mission and they take it. Percentage of license. Yeah. Yeah, it should be recognized. I agree. Often it can be just sort of like sidelined somehow. So at the ISREF, we have a cash bonus of 6,000 euros divided amongst the inventors. So if you've got 20 inventors, that's kind of tompy, although the directors can fiddle with the amount on a case-by-case basis, and they do not get a percentage of the income, because we found that system very hard to manage. But percentage of license income is obviously very popular. So Nigel, because you might say something, what's the percentage of income? Do you have this stuff happening where you're working?
Well, it applies to the university where I was.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, there are various there are various approaches to this. The ones I've been involved with, the inventors together would get a percentage between, let's say, 0 and 50%. I put that fairly widely because there are some differences. 0 does also happen,
Okay.
but it's not general now because we try to reward inventors.
Mm-hmm.
So those are that there can be interesting percentages. You've got to identify who all the inventors are. Sometimes they're from different institutes as well, or from temporary staff who have made an intellectual contribution.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep tabs on it. It does entail some administration, but of course you make people very happy by giving them a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little recognition. It's sort of like, sort of nod towards them, saying, "Well done, nicely done. We do appreciate it." Somebody said no. Do you reward staff? No. Who was no? Because that's maybe there's a good reason for no.
No, there is no experience about that. Just for that we are not used for that. I don't think that is right, but this is the case.
Okay, that's okay. Well, you persuade your directors to do something different. Yeah, is that who wrote personal IPR? Does that imply? What does that mean?
So I wrote personal IPR is possible. I'm not sure that's the correct wording, but so in our environment, it is possible to get some remuneration of what you have invented, and I guess it's very much the similar situation as what you described with situation A or B.
Yeah. Okay.
So. If you did do a real invention, then yes, you can talk about how this helps your personal or for you personally.
Okay, so it's basically an open discussion about what the reward would be if it worked.
But it's in, let's say, a framework. So there are some directives saying, well, it must be between the lines that. That both sides are good in the end.
Okay. Well, we sort of, I know some facilities are very generous with the rewards for this, and sort of like starting with very high percentages of income generated, and then going down as more is generated. I think EMBL is quite good, for example. Is quite generous. But I mean, we hardly at the ISRF we don't have very much of this type of income anyway. Maybe we need to grow it. Anybody else on this? Is the last question, right? Because then we're all released to go to lunch, and I think Uta might be with us, maybe by now. Any other points on this one from some other facilities or ILOs? But ILOs, I think, anyway. Yes, if not, we can move on to Uta saying Happy Christmas, I think.
I just have a quick question. Does that create competition between people, or I mean, if you know, like for instance, you're going to have some cash behind? How does that impact? Like maybe everybody wants to run for a patent or IPR or.
It's a good question. In my experience, it can also lead to problems where people argue, saying, "Oh, I'm an inventor. No, you're not an inventor. You didn't have that input." Oh, blah, blah, blah. And you end up with actually defining people. Inventor is probably easier to define, but then there's also another category of people that were involved in some way in the intellectual development of the idea, in maturing it.
Is there? I mean, do you have to? I guess do you have to define a framework before that, like saying, because you were saying like basically you can have a group of people that share and they can be up to 20 people sharing this 6,000. So how do you define who has been, because you can always say, oh, but I was part of it at some point, you know?
Yep, it's a big challenge, and with at the SRF we used to have a system where there was a percentage of the income going out to this set of people, and it could get quite, in managing and running it, it was very heavy. Now it's a much more modest sum. Then it's the debate is less important, if you like, and it's much easier to handle. And we've had actually the last few inventions have been developed over developments, whatever you want to call them. This inventions has a special meaning. They've been developed over such a long period of time, and the staff turnover at the SRF is such that, because a lot of scientists are on temporary contracts, that it was just impossible to dig out actually who was involved. And in the end, we said, okay, in this case, we're not going to assign any rewards to anyone because it's been developed over a period of 10 years, matured with testing and blah-de-da-de-da. We said no one.
Okay.
And we just let it lie like that. I think it also comes down to, I've heard arguments as well about it other places where saying invention is part of your mission. And so you should invent as part of your job. And because invention is part of your mission anyway, in developing new stuff, then your rewards are modest because we're paying you to do that task. Yeah, we're paying already to do that kind of work, which is, I think, is partly the flavor at the CEA, but I might have that wrong. But I found that quite an interesting attitude as well. And yeah, we took that line a little bit at the SRF, I think. You know, part of your job is to develop new techniques and instrumentation.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? No? No, oh, they've disappeared. Do we have Uta?
Today is busy. She's in another meeting. So if she asked Angelot if you could close us out.
Okay, go on then. Over to you, after you, AC.
Okay, well, then thank you very much, everyone. If there's no more comment, you're welcome to continue this discussion on our LinkedIn group. I think it was very interesting, and I hope we can maybe cliffhanger to our next season with like this kind of topics. I think we can talk more also maybe more about IPR or innovation and how it impacts both ILOs, ICOs, and mainly industries. And but you were very silent today.
Yes, no, very, very quiet.
Christmas spirit is already like you're already all gone on holiday. But thank you very much again for being part of this coffee season #1. And
the coffee cup?
Yeah, we can have another.
No. So to bring the Christmas spirit up, you're going to be all receiving a Christmas gift from us over the next couple of weeks. You'll get a little coffee cup, and it's Enrich Your Coffee. So it's to welcome you back for next season, and obviously to have a Merry Christmas. And thanks for being a part of our network.
So thank you very much. Good. And yeah, if you want to host a season or an episode, please get back to us.
Fantastic.
Have
Brilliant.
a great
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good Christmas.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, team.
Everybody.
Bye. Okay.